the Bucks of Youth. Where were we? Get back to
So you started about the
the Undertaker thing.
Oh, okay, yeah. Did you have more on that?
No, that was it. I gave my opinion. What did you think about the Undertaker? Just a ratings grab for you. Did they just say his name to get ratings and that's it?
Probably. Remember that was also going up against the College Football National Championship game, which I don't know what the ratings were for that, but I'm assuming they were huge. So, I thought as far as what he did, what Undertaker did, I thought it was fine. His promo was his normal promo. He said that he was back, he was going to be in the Rumble, so mission accomplished. He got in Stephanie's face, that was fine. I agree with you that I'm not a huge fan of him being able to go on any show that he wants. I know that they can just kind of make up their own rules, but I would have preferred him kind of be aligned to Smackdown, but it is what it is. It'll only be for probably 2 months anyway, and then we'll just deal with it. So building off of that with the Stephanie stuff, so she had a backstage segment with Sasha Banks and Bayley, basically tearing them down, as she normally does with anyone on the roster.
Did you notice, sorry to cut you off, how much taller and bigger Stephanie is than Bayley and Sasha Banks?
Yes.
And I think, to me, this might be nitpicking, there might be another way to do it, but having Bayley and Sasha stand next to Stephanie, Stephanie's literally towering them over them. Probably has them each by 15, 20 pounds. And it just makes her look so much more imposing while making them look very vulnerable, I guess. And that, they're your wrestlers. They're your number one contenders. It's not about Stephanie McMahon. And it's the same problem we've been having on Raw for the last 10 years. And it's really just not getting... It's not getting any better, but when you have a show to compare it to, it really highlights the problem, I think.
Yeah, I hope that they, I don't know, they teased a little bit of heat there with Stephanie and Sasha, so maybe they'll actually...
Can Sasha just beat the shit out of her one day?
Yeah, or maybe if they have a match at WrestleMania or something and Sasha can beat her, that would be great.
You could have Ronda Rousey do it, but I don't know if the match lasts longer than 1:48 if she'd be able to make it. Ha boom.
Oh, no, she'll definitely break Stephanie's arm in less than that. That'll be a problem.
That's true. But maybe, which would be awesome, because then maybe somebody can make a joke about how Stephanie couldn't last that long like she did CM Punk.
There you go.
She's such a mark for herself. Drives me crazy.
So anyways, Sasha and Bayley had asked for a match with Charlotte and Nia Jax next week. Stephanie then, quote-unquote, punished them by putting them in that match this week, and they subsequently lost. And Bayley took the pin, of course. So,
brutal. Absolutely terrible.
That was that. Not much to it, I guess.
The match was okay, right? The
match was okay. They're doing Bayley and Charlotte at the Rumble in a couple weeks, and Banks is having a feud with Nia Jax, so they just kind of mix those feuds up here and into a tag match, which is totally fine.
Question for you: who's the number one contender?
Bayley.
Who took the pin?
Bayley.
Next. Oh, here we go. Kofi versus Titus. I'm not even talking about this. Next.
Let's
Stop.
not even talk about it.
On my notes, it actually says 7. Kofi versus Titus. Stop. That was my note for that. Main event was Chris Jericho with Kevin Owens against Roman Reigns in a handicap match for the U.S. Heavyweight title. Spoiler alert, Roman Reigns lost the title. Roman Reigns never wanted the title. He carried it like he was carrying a loaf of bread to the ring. He didn't care about the title. Barry Windham would... What, the loaf of bread got you?
You carry a loaf of bread over your shoulder?
I do. I throw it around the place. I walk around.
You carried it like one of those mouse with like a stick, right? With the thing over the shoulder where he's carrying all his belongings.
Yeah, like when I'm getting kicked out of my house, yeah. It was terrible. He was a terrible U.S. heavyweight champion. Compared to, look at what John Cena did with that title, and then look at what Roman Reigns did. It's like... it's an embarrassment. I don't know if he felt like he was getting punished by having the U.S. heavyweight title, but he never. I don't even remember him defending it. Do you?
Well, I think he beat
like Kevin Owens.
He beat Rusev,
yeah,
for it, right? And then I'm pretty sure he beat him in a rematch. And then I think he just they
wouldn't do a rematch for a title right away.
Come on now.
Next.
But yes, I think he did face Jericho before and maybe Owens and previously a couple of times. Not a lot, but a couple matches here and there. But yeah, I think it's just it's a way to get the title off of him so that he can probably win the Universal title at the Rumble. And they put it on Jericho. I don't know. I guess obviously it's to get more heat on these guys going into that match where Jericho is going to be suspended above the ring in a cage. So I don't know.
Forgetting about that.
Yeah, I don't know. That's the first thing that came to my mind when he lost. I was like, all right, well, now that he lost this, he can now just go ahead and win the Universal title at the Rumble. So, I don't know if that's what'll happen, but that's just how it felt to me.
He's going to wind up winning the Rumble somehow.
No.
This is going to be worse than when Bret Hart lost to Yoko and then Hogan won the belt. Like that's going to be how just disrespected and angry I feel.
Brett told him to go for it, man. No, I'm just kidding.
Imagine that booking today. Go ahead. Why don't you grade this dumpster fire?
I'll give it a C.
Wow, you are way more generous. I'm giving it a D+. Thought it was
D++.
What's that from?
All right.
Yeah, I'm giving it a D. D for damn it, I'm so mad I had to watch that. However, let's head over to my man on Tuesday night. WWE Smackdown Tuesday night. It started off the way it should with Dean Ambrose.
What? I fast forwarded that once I saw him involved.
You need to stop, man. You need to open up your. You just need to create a better energy when you watch wrestling, man. You got to let Dean Ambrose in.
You know what I'd like to
drink
see?
in the gift of Ambrose.
You know what I'd like actually,
that
and I don't,
sounds so bad.
I don't know how many folks out there are going to be listening to the show this week, but if anybody, I feel like that's. You're underselling us a little bit there, but
I have to, man. Low expectations, high hopes.
I mean, there's two of us right here, so
you didn't even listen last week. So.
You're right. Actually, I didn't start on the show. So spoiler alert. If anybody has opinions on Dean Ambrose, good or bad, why you think he's good or why you think he's not good, if they could let us know, maybe at our Twitter or on our Facebook page.
Our Twitter at All Night Long WP. Facebook.com/allnightlongwp.
Yeah.
Now, see, I feel like you're twisting this around on me a little bit.
No,
that's because I'm not a huge Dean Ambrose fan. I'm not, but I was very sour on Dean Ambrose roughly 6 to 8 months ago.
Mm-hmm.
I soured on him greatly, and I feel like ever since his segment, his feud with AJ and stuff like that, I feel like he's stepped up his game to the point where he can be a respectable champion. I'm not going to put him in the same category as some of the all-time greats like Kenny Omega, but I'm going to put him... I'm going to say he's better than he was, and I used to fast-forward through his matches. Now I find them more enjoyable, and I find his segments more enjoyable. I don't know what it is. Maybe because AJ gave him, quote-unquote, the rub, and I'm a mark and I bought into it. It's possible. But I'm not... Like I said, I'm not saying he's great, but I'm saying he's better than he was.
Okay. I mean, that's I know. I think we've talked about it a little bit in the past. Like my thought on it more is that Styles elevated. Like working with Styles makes you look better as a wrestler. So that's how. So like his matches with Styles were all very good. But I think that's AJ Styles has good matches with everybody. So I think Dean is a competent worker. Like I don't think he's like awful or anything like that. I just think that he's like an average type guy, and he, being in the ring with Styles elevated him in those matches. And I just also didn't like. I thought he got really like bad with his comedy stuff, like while he was the champion, which annoys me.
I agree with you 100%. I have two questions for you. A, do you think that's his fault, or is that creative telling him how to be?
I think it's. I'm sure he was directed to do that, right? I don't think that he did sit on his own. But I think like I don't know, the way he just comes off with his delivery of some of that stuff, like the way I remember there was one match, it was one of the matches where Styles was facing James Ellsworth, and like Ambrose's involvement in all of that was like so annoying to me, especially as him being
I remember he was like he was like kind of being sarcastic, nonchalant, doing stuff. Yeah,
and especially as a babyface, like he was openly interfering, right, and cost AJ the one match, and then like he was outside the ring on the microphone, like commenting while the match was going on, and it was like super obnoxious. And I'm like, this is terrible. Like, this
That's
makes
what
him
heels do.
Very unlikable to me as somebody that they were trying to get over. Now I'm sure some people found it funny that were watching it, so I guess that was probably their goal, but I just did not. And his delivery and stuff just kind of comes off. Whereas, like, if I was comparing him to... I can't really even compare him to, like, The Miz, right? Because Miz is actually a heel. But, like, his delivery makes sense, and the way that he does stuff makes sense because it comes off as, like, smarmy and slimy and stuff like that, and that's what he's supposed to be.
Character. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so that I can get, but...
But the problem is, I think they're trying to make Ambrose into something that he's not because they have no other choice on SmackDown. They really don't have another huge babyface. They have Styles, but Styles is more over as a face than he is a heel. But, I mean, if you go back and Ambrose is a really good promo guy when he's not trying to be the sarcastic, funny, everybody loves me kind of guy. You go back to look at his promos from CZW, I mean, he cut some really good, brutal promos about how I can't... I'm trying not to curse on the show, so I can't really quote a lot of the things he said, but he had some...
So we're good Christian boys.
What's that?
We're good Christian boys.
We're good Christian boys. We don't like that. But he had some really intense, in-your-face stuff, and that was good. That seemed real. That came, that was very natural for him. You look at him on the Austin podcast. He's not a guy that's very comfortable, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's not a guy that's very comfortable stepping outside of his comfort zone. He wrestled in weed whacker thumbtack death matches, and now you're having him do comedy stuff with some people on a family show. So it's definitely not. He was much better in the Shield, right? Because he didn't have to do a lot of talking. He came across as a heel, and I'm not counting out what he's done because he's been able to transform his character, but I also feel like he's been pushed in a direction that he's not really comfortable with. So that's my take on Dean Ambrose. I don't love him, I don't hate him, but I think he's getting better.
All right, that's enough Dean Ambrose, I think.
I want to talk more about Dean Ambrose and Kenny Omega.
This podcast has been dominated by Kenny Omega and Dean Ambrose. Quite frankly, I'm doing this podcast in protest right now. I'm just going to let you know. I'm filing a protest with the league after this podcast is over for us doing this, for the so much Kenny Omega and Dean Ambrose talk. It's a turnoff.
Oh my God, who the hell cares?
About Dean Ambrose and Kenny Omega?
I'm going to say. All right, next, Kalisto beat Ziggler with a roll-up in a pretty decent match in about 9 minutes. Dolph Ziggler solidified his heel turn, beat the holy bejesus out of Kalisto afterwards with a chair, and Apollo Creed ran down, and then he got beat up too. And
the Count of Monte Fisto.
The Count of Monte Fisto.
That's Apollo Creed.
Tremendous styles. It feels like we just did it feels like we just did this whole with Seth Rollins. Hello. With Dolph Ziggler, because he did the whole thing where he lost a couple matches and he said, if I can't beat The Miz, I retire. Now he's losing some more matches and he's turning heel. I feel like we just did this, but at the same time, now you're going to have a guy like Apollo Creed. I'm just going to keep calling him Apollo Creed. That's fine. Yeah. Apollo Creed, he's going to be...
Only in America, my friend.
You keep hitting me with these one-liners, James Brown.
There's no easy way out.
There's no shortcut home. Well, Dolph Ziggler did take the shortcut. That's something Morrow would say. That's one of Morrow's terrible segues.
Mamma mia.
Yeah, but it gives Apollo something to do, which he hasn't, and he's a highly underrated worker, and he's been buried. He's been like a superstar's main event kind of guy. So if he's going to get a good program with Ziggler out of this, then I am all for it, and it's somebody fresh in the picture on SmackDown.
Yeah, I agree. They then had the SmackDown Tag Title rematch. It was American Alpha against the Wyatts, and so they had advertised this about a week out, which I always appreciate. And this time it was...
You do love that. You always bring that up.
I do, yeah.
Gives you something to look forward to.
Yes, because you can run the commercials, you can advertise on whatever, and say next week it's going to be these matches, and then I know what I'm going to... Now I know when I sit down and watch a show what I'm going to get, and if it's something that I want to watch, like this match is something that I would want to watch, it makes me actually look forward to seeing the show when it comes on every week, as opposed to not knowing what the hell's going to happen.
And then turning on the show and getting a Mick Foley job appraisal? Was it job?
Yeah, job evaluation or performance appraisal, whatever.
Performance.
So this time they had the Wyatts had Orton and Wyatt wrestle, which I thought was good because last time when they lost the titles, it was Orton and Harper.
Continuity!
Crazy.
Kudos to the 407 SmackDown writers.
So match went about 15 minutes. I thought it was a good match, and the ending was more miscommunication between Orton and Harper, who was on the outside of the ring. They had collided when Harper was up on the apron, and then Gable rolled up Orton for the win, and American Alpha retained. And then after the match was over, they teased some more problems between Orton and Harper, with Bray kind of trying to separate them or keep the peace, as it were. So.
I, for one, loved it. I love what they're doing with this with American Alpha. A couple points I want to make. American Alpha needs to hold these tag team titles for a little while. They need more than a fluke roll-up against the Wyatts, and they need more than squash matches against the Fashion Police. They need some some wins over tough competition in dominating fashion, which I hope they get to. Secondly, I'd like to say, she'd kill me if I didn't. The Natural hasn't watched SmackDown in probably about